Welcome, welcome. Oh, we got people filtering in. Wonderful.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you. It's really hot here today, and I think it's a sign, an omen, or a premonition.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you know what that is? It's going to be fire today. That's what it is. Ben, we haven't started. This is the coolest it's going to be today. I'm already sweating with my hat right now. Are we live?
We're live. We got people filtering in. We got people from all over the world, it looks like. Hey, everybody. Say hello in the chat.
All right. Before we get started, as we wait for the few stragglers to get in here, we have a lot of material to cover. A couple things to expect for today. First of all, it's going to be meaty. You're going to have to do some work. So I'm going to give you a heads up right now. Get an adult beverage of your choice. Mine's going to be hot water. Get a notebook and a pen.
Or several,
Several.
Just have an arsenal of liquids at your desk.
Unless you have a micro bladder, Ben. For you, easy on the beverages, all right? Okay, we're going to get started in 2 seconds here. I stayed up to 3 in the morning last night, tweaking a deck that was already done at 10 p.m., and I'm slightly embarrassed to tell you because I was cutting out this one kid's picture, and it took forever. I don't know what I was doing. Half an hour into it, I was like, what am I doing at 2 in the morning right now? Is this even essential? This is definitely not essential, but my obsessive, compulsive desire to get every pixel just right, every hair. I was painting in hair, Ben. So that's kind of a sign of things to come. All right, let's get started, Ben.
We just enabled chat, and holy smokes, it's flying by. Oh my God.
Oh, hello.
Hey, everybody.
All right, we're done with that. Hopefully I'm recording audio and I'm recording the video presentation, okay? So first of all, warm welcome to all the Pro family that are here. In case you're wondering why there are panelists up here, it's because they're already part of the Future Pro community. So we're gonna get going. The people we like, we trust, and we know, and so they'll contribute to the conversation. Of course, you can participate today either in the chat or in the Q&A portion of it, and we may or may not have time to bring you on up individually. Ben, I forgot we're doing a webinar, so we won't be able to do breakout rooms, or will we?
I don't know. Let me research that. I'll get back to you.
Okay, why don't you do that? I'll buy you some time. Let's kick this thing off and let's get going here. So I'm going to share my desktop here. Here we go. And Benjamin Button, can you confirm that you can see my presentation?
I gotcha. Scaling from zero. Wow, look at that illustration.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Midjourney, man. Scaling from zero. This is our one part of 3. Our first part of 3 webinars. And those of you that are not part of the Future Pro community, we're just going to show you what it's like to do a call with us and to be part of this family. So the first 2 calls are 100% free, scaling from zero, how to land your first 5-figure client. And Ben Burns, myself, Stephanie, Carrie Green, and Elle, we're just talking about like, how do we formulate this in a way that you can get there? And I'm really impressed by this young man. This young man, his name is Alex Hormozy. And he has this line on his YouTube videos. I'm not here to sell you anything. I just want to help you to get to $1 million or $3 million in revenue so that we can invest in you one day to get you to 30 million. And that was really neat. That was super inspiring to me. Like, so your guard is down. I'm not here to sell you anything. And I love that part. So I started to think about this with the team. There are a lot of people in our community that want to have a creative business. And your creative business could be you're a hairstylist, a tattoo artist. Maybe you do tile work or something like that. I've run into a person on the street just doing tile work talking to me who has watched our channel. And so what we want to do is to help you migrate. Why am I hearing audio in my left ear? Somebody's got a hot mic. Thank you. All right. Panelists, admins, help me out with that kind of stuff. Super sensitive, okay? So I want to help you transition from your 9-to-5 job to being able to do this full-time as an entrepreneur, as a sole operator, sole proprietor, and ultimately scale to something much bigger if that's your aspirations. But I believe in this. I believe your life is too short for you to be doing something that you don't love, something that has no meaning to you. And I want to help you take advantage of that. And it's the best time to be alive because we're living in this creator economy and there's so much that you can do that wasn't available to us before. And so I want to talk a little bit about the challenges. And it's been on purpose that I showed you 3 background images that are all AI generated from Midjourney. because this is the future, everybody. Look at these beautiful illustrations that were done by a machine just with some prompting. Okay, so there are many challenges, but we won't be talking about AI right now. So challenge number one is we don't know where to start. You know, you're like, there's so many options out there. No one has told you you go from A to Z. And so I made this post. It's 1 to 75 steps on how to scale from zero and how to get your first 5-figure client. So that means many of you have an unproven business model and you have little to no experience. And the problem is when you have no experience, no one will hire you because you have no experience. It becomes a catch-22. Something has to give here. And so we're not sure if the market actually wants or desires what it is that you do. Perhaps it's priced too high. Perhaps it's not positioned correctly. Perhaps it's not described the right way. Or you're just fishing in the wrong hole. Whoever you're reaching out to isn't interested, but there's a whole untapped market that's waiting for you. So we need to figure that stuff out. And once we're able to do this, we can move from a state of self-doubt where you have low self-confidence and self-esteem to a place where it's built on confidence, one project, one successful project at a time. That's what we're going to do. And the last thing is, well, how do we know we're pricing this correctly? So those are the challenges. So the goal for today is to help you explore the different possible things that you could be doing, different ideas, iterations, value propositions, so that you can make a decision. We have to decide on something, and I'd love for it to happen today, because nothing's going to happen without action. You've heard me say this before. I gravitate towards people who have a propensity, a bias towards action. So if you've been straddling the fence for so long, it's time to get off that fence because you're not getting any younger. Let's get started today, okay? And we're going to help you create a no-brainer offer. Somebody else has a hot mic. Future Pro community, you know what the deal is. Please keep your mic muted. Hot mic situation here. Actually, as admins, can't we just automatically mute everybody? Andres, can you look into that? Because I've been on webinars before where unless you're given permission to speak, because it's going to mess up the recording too. Okay, let's get going. So what we want to do is to make sure you have a core offer. That's the bottom line. It's, do you have something that's packaged in a way that people want to buy so that you don't have to work so hard to sell it? So we're going to workshop a minimum viable product today. And the product is the thing that you offer. And when I say product, most of you are in the service space, not actually in the product, but the language should work. And if you were just joining us, or if you're just joining us right now, this is the picture it took me forever to cut out. That's right. I don't know why I spent 45 minutes cutting this out. Okay. There's this expression, inch by inch, everything is a cinch. Yard by yard, everything's hard. So whenever we're looking at something like getting to a 5-figure client, which is $10,000 US, right? It seems insurmountable, especially if you're just trying to scrape by. You still haven't landed your first client. You can't even give this stuff away. And so there's this technique. It's called scaffolding. It's a term that we use in education, but another term that you may be familiar with is called chunking. You just take something that's really big and you break it into like little bite-sized pieces. So right now, you're probably working in a 9-to-5 job. You're doing something else not aligned with your life mission, your purpose, things that give you meaning. And you need to get to a place where you can consistently build $10,000 plus projects. And so we begin at the bottom. We got to make that big decision. We got to decide what it is we're going to do and who we're going to do it for, and package it in a way that someone's going to say yes. And you'll see there's going to be a theme here. We got to get someone to say yes, because when we do that, we're going to be able to confidently say we landed our first client. And there's strategies on how to do this. And then after we land our first client, confidence builds. Skills build, systems and processes build, and then you could scaffold up towards getting your first $10,000 project and then learn from that process. And you'll realize something that many of us who've been in business for some time, who've been successful, the first job is the hardest thing to get. The subsequent jobs become much, much easier. Much, much easier. So that's the challenge here today. Now, I believe we sent out a link to many of you to do the PVP exercise. If not, we'll send it out to you after this webinar today. And there's just 3 components to this, is that we need to know what it is that we do, who we do it for, and why it matters. So the PVP will help you figure out the what. It'll help you make decisions, right? It'll help you to make decisions. And that decision that we're talking about is referred to by Blair Enns as the difficult business decision. And it's appropriately labeled because many of you cannot decide what it is that you want to do. And the way that we do this is we use the PVP exercise from the one-page marketing plan, which was written by Alan Dibb. Excellent resource. I'll give you a link to all the resources at the end of the webinar, so you don't have to worry too much about that. Okay, so the first part of the PVP, and then PVP stands for personal fulfillment, value to market, and profitability. So I want you to get ready for this because I'll explain it, and then I want you to work on this for a little bit. And pro people and my other panelists and admins will do this together in case we can't do this interactively. So the first question is, what is it that you do? What do you do? What I want you to do is when I prompt you to make a list of every possible service that you are interested in providing, and there's a caveat, irregardless of how practical it might be. Okay, this is not the time to write down nurse, doctor, lawyer. It is a moment to look inside your soul and say, this is what I want to do. There will be a moment for us to evaluate this, but this is not the moment. I want you to think about everything that you want to do as a possible career, business that you want to build, a service you want to provide. Okay? I hope that's clear. And Andres will help me monitor the chat and the questions that are coming in. This is probably one of the larger webinars that we're running, so it may be difficult for us to track you, so just be patient with us. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to score each one of these potential business opportunities from a scale of 1 to 10 based on 3 criteria. The 10 is the highest score, 1 would be the lowest. And you get to rate each however you feel like it. Just be consistent with how you score each because it's all contextual and relevant to you, right? So you're going to rate each service based on how much fulfillment this gives you. Like, it gives you joy just to think about this. And if you could do this in your free time and get paid for it, that would just be the most amazing thing. That should score really high on the 1 to 10 scale. We also have to make sure that what we love to do is valuable to the market. Like, say, for example, I love to play video games, but I'm not at that level where I can play on a semi-professional level. I probably couldn't even get out of the amateur ring or the amateur league because I'm just not that good. But the market does value people like, say, Ninja. He's a handful of people who's a personality. He can do brand endorsements. A lot of people tune in to watch him play, and he can compete at a very high level. So you have to look at value to market, and you get to score that 1 to 10. So it can have great personal fulfillment, a lot of joy, but score really low in terms of value to market. And the last one is very important because if it's really fulfilling to you, theoretically it's very valuable to the market, it could still have low profitability. This is a lesson I learned from running my business, my production company for many, many years. These large live action jobs with Microsoft or with Sony or Xbox or whoever, big budgets, $400,000, $600,000, $700,000 USD. But the profit margin was really small, relatively speaking. It could be as little as 15% of the gross budget. So if we did $1 million project, our ability to make profit is only $150K. This is where David Baker writes, revenue is vanity, profitability is sanity. So that's really $150,000 job. So we have to score jobs that have a higher profit percentage with a score of 8, 9, or 10. So this will give you a really balanced view, and we're taking a big decision or making it a lot simpler or breaking down in chunks like this. So I want you to total each up, and then I want you to review, add each column up, okay? And then I want to see what you found out. So this is the grid or the framework, whatever. You would write in the first column all the different things you want to do, and you would score it across to the right in each row: personal fulfillment, value to market, and profitability, and then you just add it up. Okay, now Ben and Andres, do we have the ability to do breakout rooms?
We cannot do breakout rooms today.
Okay, so the breakout rooms are broken.
Yep. They don't work with this setup.
Okay, so we have a lot of people in here. We have business boot campers in here. We have Future Pro Group, and we're really just going to take you through this step by step. It doesn't matter if you're starting from zero, if you're switching gears, you can still use this exercise to zero in on what kind of service you should be providing. I hope this is going to give you some guidance so that you don't feel like, oh, It's so hard to make this decision. Just can't figure it out, Chris. Okay, so I'm going to pause here. Let me stop the share. I'm going to turn this over to our lovely panelists here today. And I see that we have some questions already. So, Kezia, what's on your mind? Hi, Kezia. Wait a minute. You're muted or something. You got a lot of gestures, but I can't. Oh, I see. We have to give you the ability to speak.
Duh.
We got that part to work. Yay! Right, woo!
We're Zoom experts.
Now we're
That's a 10 on my scale.
Zoom spurts. Okay. I almost said Zexperts, but that was like, that didn't sound right. Okay, Kezia.
I just wanted to go back to the first one. It's
Yes.
Number 2 is score it. Number 3 is the other one. I took a screenshot. I don't remember. But what was the first one?
Okay, first you have to make a list of everything that you want to provide as a service to some audience, some market out there, right?
Mhm.
So let's say you want to like walk dogs. That's one. You just write that. I want to walk dogs because I love dogs. I don't personally, but I'm just saying if you did, I love to walk dogs. Okay. So how much personal fulfillment would that give you? Maybe that gives you an 8. It's not everything to you, but it's really high up there. Okay. We'll leave some room for 10s later, maybe. So the value to market is how much is the dog walking service? Like if you walk my dog twice a day, what do I pay you? $30? Probably not a lot, right? Okay. But profitability, since it's just your labor, and if you can walk 10 dogs, that's $300 a day. And profitability would be quite high. So maybe the profitability percentage wise is probably at an 80% because there's no hard costs. Well, there are some hard costs. You got to buy those little baggies so you can pick up the poo. So those are like 2 cents. High profitability, right? And you get a workout too. So maybe personal fulfillment is quite high. And you would add those 3 up. So that one would probably be 8 or 9 in personal fulfillment, probably 8 on profitability, and value to market probably like 2. So that would give you a score of 18. 16 plus 2 is 18. 18 out of Apostle 30, right? Now, here's the really cool and interesting thing about this is you're like, well, Chris, if I tweak the service, it would be more valuable to the market. This is where your creativity comes in, right? Like what if you added a tracker to each dog so that the owners can track their own dog, like where they go, how far they go, and you took a little dog selfie and you send it to owner as part of your service. Maybe you can charge a little premium for that. And you're like, oh, it's getting interesting now. Maybe it's just not dog walking. It's also like just dog care. And you can also offer additional services like this total complete package. So the owners are traveling. They don't have to worry that the dog is with someone who's going to neglect their needs, because a lot of people have this connection with their pets as if they're their children. I know. Okay. Kezia, was that clear? Does she need the permission to speak again?
Yes, no, I'm no. Thank you.
Now we've learned. Thank you very much. Look at this. By the time we're done with this, in 2 weeks, we're going to be pros. Okay. I'm curious to hear anybody want to share one thing that they scored really high on in terms of personal fulfillment, value to market, and profitability. And I want to just give you some feedback on that. I got my pen here, my paper. I have a pen.
Yeah, go ahead and raise hands, everybody.
I have an apple.
Marcus got a 26 on something in the chat.
Wow.
Attendees, but that's
Okay.
pretty good.
Okay. So here we go. So Andres, can you give Mallory and Mai the permission to speak, to turn on their microphones? Okay. So Mallory.
Hi, Chris.
Hi. It's almost like I haven't seen you in a few days.
I know, Chris.
Okay, boot camper.
Okay.
What do we got?
So web design and development, 10. Logo design, 10. And then I put branding and messaging somewhere in an 8 or a 9 because it requires verbiage and a little bit more than I want to do because I'm not sure I'm the expert at doing that, but I think it goes hand in hand.
Okay, what I want you to do is I want you to score this across the 3 columns. So I don't want one score. I want the total score, and I want you to focus in on the one that has the highest score, and I want to talk to you about that. Okay.
Web design and development,
Web design and development. What is the score for that?
30.
It can't.
Well, the hard part about profitability for me is
Yeah.
because it's still just my time. So my
Well,
time, I don't know how to
well,
value the time.
well. Okay, this is good for us to talk about. I'm always a little scared when somebody says 30. That means of the entire possible jobs in the universe, you found the one that is at the very tippy top of the top. So I want you to be like a school teacher. I don't want you to be giving out perfect 10s to everybody just because they showed up. All right. So that's the one thing I would say first to you, because
Okay.
with the tweak, you could probably find a business that's actually even more fulfilling for you, or perhaps more profitable for you. Maybe I'm just like stern Asian dad. I always want to leave a little room up there for improvement. You know what I mean?
Oh, I
Okay.
think I may have misunderstood then
Okay.
how to value, how to
Okay.
value that. Okay.
Okay, so let's do this. Okay, this is an excellent learning opportunity for us then. So web design and development makes you really happy. There's a lot of personal fulfillment there for you. But if I ask you, if you never had to make money ever again, I'm going to send $2 million to you tomorrow. Are you going to wake up and do web design and development?
Yes.
Really?
You know how I
You
know
love
that?
it that much?
Yeah, I do.
Well, this is fantastic then. Okay, if that's true, and I'm going to take your word for it, because I don't know if I would do it. I'm just saying. I'm glad you're that passionate about it. So that you scored it correctly. Okay, so that's how you check. If you won the lottery, the lottery's over $1 billion right now. Somebody eventually will win $1 billion. It'll change their life forever. It's kind of hard to spend $1 billion. Okay, what would you want to do? Because those are usually very good clues. However, through conditioning, through socialization, what we tend to do is we block those parts off. So this is an exercise for us to surface and unearth whatever it is that is lurking inside your heart, what you really, really want to do, and to be free to dream that dream. Just maybe even just for the next 2 minutes. I'm asking that for you from your inner child, to let yourself frolic about in the land of possibilities. Can we do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So value to market, the market really desires what it is that you're doing. Like you could almost charge anything and they would just want it. That would be a 10. Like you never get pushback because the market is beating a path down to your door. Maybe not today, but the theory is they would. And I want you to think about that. And then in terms of profitability, now you have to keep in mind, based on our other conversation, Mallory, I have insider knowledge here. You're probably not going to be doing all the development yourself. So there are expenses for sure. Okay. Now, given that, what is your score?
Probably a 24.
I love that. Okay. I've done my job of taking you down a couple of pegs. Wonderful. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is as we progress, we can actually get this number higher because of us doing it for a specific marketplace. So you can do the exact same thing for different people and charge a lot more and be a lot more profitable. And so this is why I want to leave room, because we can't go beyond 30 theoretically, right? Just the math part of me. Okay. So this is wonderful. I want you to think about some other ideas and not to zero in on what you're doing today. Just allow yourself to come up with 5 new business ideas, anything you want. Okay? Okay, excellent, Mallory. Thank you very much. All right, let's move over to Mai.
All right. As we're going there, Chris, for us, those of us who are visual learners, can you add the graphic back to the...
Absolutely. I will share that right now.
And it was funny. I noticed in the chat, Michael said, man, you give me $2 million, I'm gone. I'm gone.
Okay, Michael said that? Which
Yeah.
Michael?
I have to scroll up. Hold on.
There's a lot of Michaels.
I had a good chuckle about that one.
Okay, Michael, whichever Michael you are, I just want to say this. If you're gone, where do you go? This is a good clue. It is a really good clue.
He says everywhere. It's Michael G.
Michael G, you got to pick something. You can't go everywhere. You can only go somewhere, and then you can go somewhere else. Where do you go? What do you do? Are you sitting by the beach drinking a mojito? Mojito? Is that what you're doing? Are you working out? Are you helping people? Are you helping yourself? You're going to do something. After the vacation period wears off, you're going to find that life is empty. That we need to be doing something that fills us with a sense of purpose, I think. It's why people who win a lot of money in a short period of time actually lose it all. And they're actually worse off than before they won the lottery. Okay. All right, Maya, you're up next. Go ahead.
So I scored a 27 for
Okay, what
embodied
is it?
leadership coaching.
Leadership coaching?
Yeah, embodied leadership coaching.
Okay. Ooh. Okay, that's your highest score?
Yes. It's
I
actually
suspect-
the only thing that I rated because I've been through a few months of really figuring out what it is that I'm doing and why I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the answer to my exploration the past months.
Okay, so you already know. You've already done this whole exercise, self-work. You're ready to go. You're fully aligned with what it is you want to do.
Yes, not according to this framework, but yeah, through
Yes.
other ways. Yes.
But if you did this framework, you would still come up with the same score, right?
I rated 27 based on this, but I'm not sure if I did it right. So I'm very curious how
Okay.
you're going to walk me through it.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I love that many of you already know what it is that you want to do.
Mhm.
But if we come into this exercise saying, I already know the conclusion, we're not
Mhm.
open to what potential things we will discover for ourselves. Does that make sense? That would be
Yeah,
reasonable,
it does
right?
make sense.
So
Yeah.
what I would love for you to do, just like with Mallory, is just open it
Mhm.
up a little bit. Just try.
Sure.
Because I find that a lot of people, they
Mhm.
make decisions
Mhm.
just before they even give themselves a moment to imagine. So I just want you to imagine for a little bit. Now, out of
Sure.
curiosity,
Yeah.
for what it is that you wrote down, and
Mhm.
I didn't catch the first word. You said something leadership coaching. What was the first word?
Embodied. So
Embody?
yeah, embody lead. Yeah.
What does that mean, embody?
It's a different type of leadership coaching, but it's where you involve the whole somatic experience within the leadership coaching.
Okay, so it's a certain kind of system you need to get trained for, and certain only some people know how to do this style.
Well, yes, it's kind of a niche. It's definitely a niche.
So
Yes.
like there's NLP, there's cognitive CBT. So there's like different martial arts,
Mhm.
if you will, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And EM something, I forget, MDR.
MDR. There are so many ways, but this is basically looking at your physical system and your energy system, and also the traumas. They are hidden within the way you show up. Like if you're
Okay.
more hunched over, it tells you something about you and the stories you've been through.
I see.
And yeah,
As you say that, everybody's like sitting up a little more straight. So it's good.
I saw
All right,
that.
we're great. I see you. Look, as soon as I say that, Ankit sits up a little bit more correctly. Like, no, I'm not. I don't have trauma. I'm good. I'm good. Okay. I'm just curious of the three categories: personal fulfillment, value to market, and profitability. What was the lowest score?
The lowest score is, I think, profitability,
Okay.
but I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, let me ask you a quick question. If you don't mind disclosing, if it's uncomfortable for you, say pass, and we'll respect that. Okay.
Sure.
How
Yeah.
much can you charge to do this kind of leadership coaching?
Okay. I mean, I started to focus on really putting it out there. So I think the highest so far I got was 5,000 euro. So I think I've heard people around me could charge way more, but that's
Yes.
the highest I felt comfortable with charging so far.
And when you charge that, people said yes.
Yes.
Do they say it like quickly, or they say it slowly?
Well, the company paid for it, but she definitely said yes really quickly. And the company apparently said it within a second as well. But I
Okay.
think it's because she pitched it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you done with the work already?
No, we
Okay.
still
You're still
have to
going through
start.
it.
Mhm.
All right. So here's the cool thing about what you're doing is you're probably selling like B2B, not B2C, right?
Yes.
Okay, which is a different challenge. And I like this because somebody says yes because they're not spending their money. A lot of executives have a personal development budget and it goes away if they don't use it. So it's
Mhm.
important for them to be able to use it. And if it's leadership training, it's a ROI thing where people will spend money to get a return on investment, right?
Mhm.
So there's potential here for you to quite drastically increase the price to a point in which people start to become slightly uncomfortable. Now, let me
Yes.
just tell you a little personal story, and then we're going to move on to the next part of this webinar, okay?
Mhm.
And I'm glad we're all talking about this, is I'm potentially considering working with a PR person just so I can get my Instagram verification check. So they're going to try to get me into a couple of traditional magazines and news outlets like Success Magazines, Entrepreneur, Wired, Fast Company, those kinds of things, right?
Mhm.
And for that, they initially put together a proposal for me that was $7,000 a month
Mhm.
for a minimum of 6 months. So they're asking me to make a $42,000 investment.
Mhm.
I was like, no, not for an Instagram verification check. That is the world's most expensive verification check. I'm not doing that because
Mhm.
I don't really care that much about traditional media. But I suspect this was a very good strategy on their part because I immediately wrote back, like, I can't afford this. This is just way out of control.
Mhm.
Like, we hear you. What if we do a flat? We'll charge you $7,000. Now I'm like, yeah, I guess I can roll the dice and see if this will work.
Mhm.
Right? So there's a couple of things that you can learn from this. One is you don't know the ceiling of something until you push towards that ceiling. Otherwise, it's a self-imposed pricing ceiling. This is a concept everybody here needs to master. We tell ourselves a self-story to say, hey, I don't think anybody would pay more than that. I mean, it's just my time,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So what this person did was anchor me really high so that when they came back as part of the strategy, $7,000 seems very palatable compared to $42,000.
Mhm.
Still
But
pretty
how do you feel
expensive.
about that?
I feel like I'm going to move forward with it. That's why I'm telling you this story.
But you don't feel tricked by them.
No, I don't feel tricked at all. If I felt
Hmm.
tricked, I wouldn't do it.
And why
I mean,
don't
they
you
would
feel
like
tricked?
me to sign up for the $42,000 package. I believe in their heart that they think they can do the most for me,
Mhm.
but a lot of clients can't afford that or don't want that,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? So they're going to test out an idea and see if I want to buy the S-Class Benz with all the fixings in it.
Mhm.
And they learn that maybe I'm a C-Class kind of guy with
Mhm.
like the pleather seats and no air conditioning.
Okay.
All
So
right. Does
from-
everybody understand?
So did they offer something different for $7,000 or did they offer the same
Oh, yeah,
thing?
it's totally different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Now
it's
I
not the same
understand.
thing.
Yes.
I would
Okay.
not trust them if they offered me the same thing for
No,
$7
that's
grand.
why I felt like, didn't you feel tricked then? But I
No.
understand now. Mhm.
Yeah. So, I don't know how long you've been part of the program, but we teach these kinds of pricing strategies, right?
Mhm.
There's
Mhm.
the white glove, what Ben Burns will call the girlfriend experience, which is we'll do everything. All you have to do is show up. We'll even pick you up, And then there's the like, well, you do some of the work, we'll do some of the work model.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can choose between those two because
I
if
like
you just
this.
present me one option, it's very hard for me to decide. So we'll talk about that on a different webinar. This is not the webinar for that. Okay.
Sure.
Everybody
Yeah.
understand? We're all good. Thumbs up, everybody. Give me an emoji right now, everybody. All right, cool. I got double thumbs up from Kia. All right. So let's keep going then. All right. So this is important because we're moving on to find out what it is that you do. Now, the second part to this formula and understanding your offer is to understand who you do this for. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a customer persona. This is really critical. If you've done brand strategy before, if you've done user experience design, this will be very, very familiar with you. So we've tackled what it is that you do. Now we need to know who you do it for. Who do you do it for? Okay. Now I want you to picture in your mind your ideal customer. Like, I would love to have this person call me up. I want to work with them every single day of the week. I don't want you to pick one person and you're going to build an archetype user persona for them. And then we're going to get examples from Stephanie, Ben, and maybe Carrie Green, possibly. Let's see what happens here. So we can start off by just giving this person a name. So you'll probably want to screenshot this, right? You see in the upper left-hand corner, there's a little red camera. Every time there's a little red camera, it's a prompt for you to screen grab it. And we'll probably give you the slides anyways afterwards. But for the sake of us doing this together today, I want you to screen capture it. Okay. So you're going to imagine this person. Is it a man? Is it a woman? Is it somebody who's non-binary? How old are they? How much money do they make? Where do they go to school? What do they study? Where do they live? And so we start to fill in who this person might be. And if you can't fill this in, we're going to have a problem. because we don't want to create a solution for a person that doesn't exist. In fact, we might have done this in the opposite order if we're doing user-centric design thinking. We would have found a person first and then figured out a solution for them. But here we are. I want you to fill this in, okay? And we can make an educated guess as to who this person is. And if you don't know this person today and you can't do this, it's a good sign for you that you're not quite ready and you need to do some research. You need to think about this. Oftentimes, if you watch shows like Shark Tank, they'll tell you a story. The founder will always tell you a story like, hey, sharks, I was cleaning out my gutter one day and I almost fell off the ladder. My wife said, hey, there's got to be a better way. And then I wondered how many other people are dealing with the same problem. So I came up with this solution. Sharks, who's with me, right? They tell you a story about a person who has a problem, who desires an urgent solution for something, and is willing to spend money to make that problem go away. Okay, so once we get the demographics down, we're going to fill in with some psychographics. Things like their interests, their values, and their behaviors. So what are they interested in? What do they do? And we start to get a clearer picture. In fact, the demographics don't do a ton for us in terms of us empathizing with the prospect or the client or the customer. But the interest in the behaviors, are they a religious person? Are they really into listening to NPR? What podcasts do they pay attention to? What are their hobbies? You start to fill that in. You know, what do they do for fun? Where do they go to vacation? Fill all that stuff in. And you can probably at that point make some educated guesses as to their behavior. This will get you close to what it is that you think they need. So Mallory, I want you to really think about this now, because all of a sudden, the service that you feel very connected to can find its ideal customer. So when we pair what we do with our customer, our ideal customer type, we should be able to bump up that number even higher. So Mallory, I believe you said you brought it down to 24? No. Something like that. Yes, you're nodding. Okay. And then I think you said when you did this exercise, you scored at 27. So we want to get this a couple of points higher. So we want to possibly do a little out of the box thinking here. Again, sit back, just dream a little bit with your eyes open. And once you get a clear picture as to who this person is, you should be able to find a photograph of them online, be able to paste it in where this bald silhouette is. That's just a human, right? So plug that person in. So when we're doing this exercise, we will go on the internet and find someone who's wearing a certain clothes, certain eyewear, like myself. Are they wearing a cap? Do they have a face tattoo like Post Malone? Do they have gold teeth? What is it? You figure it out. Are they old? Are they young? And you put that person in so that you can visualize who you're speaking to, because you're speaking to one person right now. And the last part is we want to fill in an archetype, because they're not alone. If you're into astrology, if you're into, I forget all the other ones because I'm not into them, obviously. There are a lot of different systems that classify people, but it turns out there are not that many different types of people. Like, I'm a Capricorn with the moon sign of Sagittarius, and okay, that gives me some nuance, but my core is Capricorn. And apparently, every Capricorn I meet, we're kind of the same. Some differences, but the core is there. So figure out the archetype, and you can do like personality archetypes. And there's a lot of different models you can do. You can type in brand archetype. So are we the magician or the wizard? Are we, I don't know. I don't even know what they are, but you can fill that in. And you can make up your own too. Like you can say the archetype is they're loud leaders. And if you want to make it fun, you just use alliteration just like I did, okay? And so this gets us warmed up for the next part. Okay, well, if I see your hand up, are you asking a relevant question right now? Okay, go ahead. Somebody.
So if we are looking at B2B clients, should we be targeting the CEO as our archetype, or who we think would be the best contact?
Good question. Okay. This is a really interesting thing, because you are a business, but the business is nobody. There's a somebody, and that person's named Wolf. And Wolf makes the decision, right? You make the decision. So on the opposite side is another B, but you can't talk to a B. You got to talk to a person. And so is that person the CEO? It depends. Depends on how big the company is. The likelihood of you speaking to the CEO of a large $100 million company is pretty low. So you got to work through their people. Probably CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, VP of Marketing, potentially. Sometimes it's the head of a product. They have multiple products, so they have head directors of whatever, experienced directors of XYZ product packaging. You need to figure out who that person is. Sometimes, believe it or not, they're called human resources. The human resources division or person who leads that is the person who staffs not only employees, but contractors. So you have to figure that out. So Wolf, there's no one answer, but let me ask you this question. The B that you're talking about, what category are they in? Oh, you're muted. You have to unmute again.
Okay, I was trying to keep background noises out. The client I'm thinking of is a local grocer.
Local grocer. Do you know how much revenue they do in a year?
It's like 150 to 200,000.
Oh, it's got to be a lot more than that.
Okay.
So have you worked with grocery stores before?
I am currently working with a specific local grocer, which is why this jumped to mind.
Okay. This specific local grocer, have you talked about business and their revenue?
A little bit, yes.
Okay. So do you have an idea? You think they do 250 grand a year?
I have access to their financials, and yes, they did 250 grand last year, and this year they're trending down, which is why I'm trying to help them find more clients. But yes.
Okay, I see. They must be a very small grocery store.
Very small.
Like how small?
They have, I think, 15 employees, and
that seems off to me.
200 customer. Yeah, that's too many actually. Probably. I think
there's something off here. All right,
it's like 8 employees.
Yeah.
A lot of people part-time though is why I think I added extra, because like a lot of different faces.
Yeah, because if you do the math here, let's do the math, right? Where do you live?
Evanston, Illinois, just north of Chicago.
Okay, what do you think the what is the poverty line at in terms of revenue a year?
Poverty line for an individual?
Yep.
30,000, maybe a bit lower.
Right. So if I take 30,000 times 15, your initial number, that would put me at $450,000. They could not even afford to pay everyone the poverty line. If they're doing $250,000 in revenue. Something is off to me. And I'll tell you why I know this, because my business coach, my former business coach, he used to work with grocery stores, and he told me they bring in $1 million a day. A day, okay? But he says their profit margin is 1%. I'm like, 1%? They're a volume business. Okay, so I don't know much about grocery stores, but the little I know is it's a volume business, and their profit margin is like between 1% to 3%. So they're just counting on you to go in to buy the milk and picking up the cookies and all the stuff where they can actually make money on. And we'll get into that concept later. It's called a loss leader. Okay, so they'll sell you things at a loss to get you to buy something else. Okay, and we're going to borrow from that concept in a little bit. Okay, so I need you to go into that business and really try to understand it. How many employees? See, so your ability to service your client as a quote unquote collaborator partner in the business is predicated on you understanding business and understanding their business. So you need to understand business concepts while also understanding their business. See, I don't even know that much about what you're doing and who you're doing it for, and I already can tell you something is drastically off. I'm not Peter Parker, but my spider sense is tingling, if you know what I mean. Okay, so Wolf, I'm going to ask you to do this. And many of you who need some help, it's not in the resources right now. There's a book. It's called 101 Things I Learned in Business School, and it's written by a Harvard Business School graduate. It gives you a very high-level summary of major business concepts that you need to understand. Now, it's not a lot to read, but it's a lot to understand. It's a tiny little book. It's pretty awesome just to get your primer on business, okay? in the 21st century, I believe there's a limited amount of time left for people who do pure aesthetics. So you have to do aesthetics with like business design for you to be able to survive and thrive in the 21st century. This is why I think current education programs are going to do a disservice to so many graduates. Okay? All right, well, so 101 Things I Learned in Business School. I think the author of the series is Michael Price. I forget his name, but it's something like that. It's a little book, and it's a series, 101 Things I Learned in Fashion School, 101 Things I Learned in Architecture School. But the one you want to get, 101 Things I Learned in Business School. Okay. Advertising when it's good as well. Okay. All right, let's get back into it. I'm glad you asked that question. So we have now kept this up long enough for me to go to the next part of this, which I'm going to bring on Stephanie. I hope Stephanie's here. Is Stephanie here?
She is, but her equipment is down.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll move on. I just was hoping to get to talk to her because the picture's cool. She's got mad style, everybody. Okay, so Stephanie, for a long period of time, was a full-time English teacher, I believe, AP English teacher. And she has a company called Golden Sheep. And I wanted to ask her who our ideal customer is, but she's not available, so we'll move on. So we have another person, this guy. You guys know who this guy is, right? Mr. B. Burns. And you don't know this, or maybe you do. In a former life, he was a police officer. And then he started a company called Burnt Creative. So Ben, take us in the Wayback Machine. Take us back in time. I'm talking the first 5 years.
Yeah.
Who would have been your ideal customer if you were able to run this exercise? Could you tell me who your ideal customer was?
Yeah, and I actually started pivoting towards something there at the end when you and I were really working together. So my ideal customer would have been a director of product for an outdoor adventure equipment brand.
I love this.
Something like Kelty backpacks or skis, or something like
Gerber, the knife
that.
company.
Yeah, Gerber. Yep.
Or somebody that makes machetes or axes, like solid maple wood hand dipped. Maybe
Yeah.
something like that.
Yep.
Something from Bespoke Post, maybe.
Yep.
Am I crawling up your tree? Not that tree, Ben. I'm just talking about your conceptual tree. All right. Get your mind where it needs to be. Okay. This is awesome. Many people don't know what director of product means, Ben, because they don't speak corporate. They're still working their 9 to 5 somewhere. What does director of product mean in layman's terms?
Well, these companies, if they're doing their job right, they're making equipment that lasts a long time. So the only way that they can re-engage their customers is by launching new products. And this person would be in charge of a product launch. And under that umbrella includes a lot of the marketing services that are around that product, including website design, packaging, even a product-specific branding. So this person would lead that effort.
Okay. Now, you guys probably have learned a whole bunch of things just listening to Ben Burns talk. So I have an idea for you. If you go on LinkedIn and you type in the name of the company, LinkedIn will show you everybody that works there, including their titles. So what I want you to do is I want you to build a map, a hierarchy map. Like, here's the founder CEO, here's the head of product, and who sits underneath the head of product, marketing director, maybe head of or director of user experience, and director of design, or something like that. You just want to build out some kind of hierarchical chart, an org chart. That's what it's called, an org chart, ORG chart. So small companies, very easy to map. Really big companies, really difficult, but you'll see repeating patterns, right? Once you understand. Oftentimes you think you want to work with CEO, and if you can, you would. But for big companies, I think any company that does more than $50 million in revenue, you're not going to be able to reach the CEO today. You will in the future, but just not today. Not for when you're scaling from zero. You probably can't even get the intern to answer your emails right now, and that's okay. We got to be real about this. So you're going to develop an org chart, and you can also look up if they're in town. There's something called the Small Business Journal or the Business Journal, and it's a newspaper. Like in Los Angeles, it's actually pretty massive because we have massive industries here in LA. But every city has something like this, I believe, unless you're out in the, the boonies somewhere in the sticks, as Kara Green would say. There's a business journal, and you can actually see how many employees they have and how much revenue they've done and if it's gone up or down in the past year. And they'll publish these reports quite often, right? The largest fashion company, when I was looking at this back in the day, a long time ago, was a company called Forever 21, owned by a Korean family. Who knew? It was a long time ago since I was Forever 21, if you know what I mean. So I wasn't really paying careful attention to the store. It's mostly for women too, I believe, if not only for women. Okay. So you can look up in the business journal, it's a newspaper, and get a sense of like the companies, who's moving up, who's moving down. Is it the first time on the list of top 100? And with that, you're armed with a lot of research. I would do traditional media with new media being LinkedIn. Type in the company name. You could do it right now. Actually, I encourage you to do it right now. Type in the company name and look at who works there, the people, and start to jot down what you think. So there's something called the C-suite. The letter C and suite, S-U-I-T-E, is CEO, CMO, CRO, which is Chief Revenue Officer, Chief Technology Officer, CTO. There's a couple other chiefs in there. CFO, an important position, but probably one we won't be able to sell to. And so that's a C-suite. Underneath them are the VPs, VP of something. Sometimes they're also called director. A director might be one layer lower, or they might be interchangeable. I haven't worked in corporate in a really, really long time, so some of this might be outdated, okay? Something like that. So at the very top is the CEO, C-suite, VPs, directors, and then senior exec, and it just goes down and down and down, the bigger the company. And you can research this because you're going to need to figure out who you're talking to. So Ben Burns, paint a picture for us who the director of product is.
Yeah.
At one of these companies. Describe them to me.
It's interesting because I actually had conversations with a few of these people, right? Overwhelmingly, every single person that I interviewed in this space was male. They were all prior military, so they've all had tactical training. They all did the sport that, the company supported as a hobby. So they were invested in the outcome of the equipment that they were producing, and they would literally test things as they came off the line. So the passion was there. They were very passionate about what they were doing. They cared about the product that they were putting out. Where they were weak is mostly on the marketing side. Outside of creating a great product that they would use, that's where they needed help. And so they were in constant search for someone to help them on design, on branding, on advertising, managing a launch, doing launch events. That's kind of where they needed help. They were typically in their 30s and 40s because it's not really C-suite yet, but they were pretty progressed in their career. And I'm going to say that they were married with at least one kid.
All right. That was a really good picture. How old are they?
I want to say late 30s. So let's do 38.
Are they bearded? Tattooed?
No, they're very clean cut.
Clean cut.
Mm-hmm.
That's
They'll have
surprising.
tattoos, but
Not
they're more
visible?
military stuff, right? And
Yeah.
very easily hidden.
Okay. Where are they living, Ben?
Very close to the headquarters of the companies, and these companies are in states like Colorado. So
Yep.
let's say Boulder.
Okay. Beautiful. You see how we're doing this? We're like CSI right now. And we're like, I'm doing like forensic sketching here. I'm like, okay, no beard. Let me erase that part because I drew a beard in there. No curly mustache.
Mm-hmm.
Not in Boulder.
Nope.
That's a Portland thing. Stereotypes. All right, here we go. Not
Yeah.
drinking an $8 cappuccino.
Nope.
Okay.
And they'll brew a cup of Folgers, a pot of Folgers in the morning. It's not a single cup situation there. And overwhelmingly, they'll either drive trucks like an F-150 or Chevy Silverado or a Jeep. So they're not the crunchy granola Subaru drivers. They're more of the let's go conquer the wilderness versus let's go exist.
Jacked up
Coexist.
suspension.
Right.
All right, all right. So here's what we got, everybody. This person is in their late 30s. I would just give them an age. Let's say they're 38. The more specific, the better. It tells you a little bit about where they are in life. Ben's like they're a family person. This is a man, clean cut. It's okay. So Ben's profile guy. Let's give this person a name. Ben, what is this person's name?
We'll go Mike.
Okay. And what's Mike's
Watkins.
archetype?
I don't know. Maybe
Here, let's just type it in. We'll type it in. We'll type in brand archetypes, right? And let's see what we get. There's 36 examples here. Literally type in Google brand archetype and whatever
Okay.
comes up, it'll be good for you. There's the outlaw, the magician, the hero, the lover, the jester, the everyman, the caregiver, the ruler, the creator, the innocent, the sage, the explorer. So those are the ones that you want. So I feel like they're more of the leaving the legacy, which is the outlaw, magician, and the hero, or they pursue connection, which is the lover, jester, the everyman. Not everything is the way it sounds. Like the explorer is really about explorer in spirituality, about finding freedom, versus the outlaw is like they don't want to be bound by rules. So what do you think they are? Probably magician or hero, maybe?
let me look at the hero real quick.
Yeah, the hero has mastery.
Honestly, I think it's going to be more like the magician or the innocent.
Okay, the innocent, like for safety,
Yeah, safety. I mean,
spiritual
this
safety.
this is where, and maybe physical safety, really. It's like they really care about keeping people safe. That's what most of this gear does.
All right.
People don't die out there.
Yeah, I don't know let me click on the innocent here. Okay. Optimistic, honest, and humble. That's the brand voice. Life is simple and simplicity is elegant. Does that sound like this person?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
I don't think that.
But here's the
I'd
funny
like
thing.
to be called the innocent, but
No. we might need to explore this more because innocent brands are Avino, Dove, and others. That doesn't sound quite like them. They're driven by happiness, morality, simplicity, honesty, positivity. They fear anguish, depravity, complexity, deceit, and negativity. Seems so far so good.
Mm-hmm.
A strategy is to display wholesome virtue, foster feel good spirit. I might get into your little granola thing there.
Yeah, the outlaw might be worth exploring too.
Yeah. So what we can do is we can just click through these things. Okay. And so we might call this person like Robert instead. Robert the Rebel.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. So like we get to play with alliteration, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And so the Rebel Robert forges his own path. 38, married, is a veteran, eats the dog food basically. Basically, that means that they're connected to what it is that they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. This is a rugged individual. So now we'll add the R word there. Rugged Robert the Rebel.
Right.
And our profile is almost done. Probably a square jaw, high cheekbones. Looks a little like Viggo Mortensen, cleaned up.
Early riser, definitely wakes up at like 5 a.m.
There you go. Because former military, that tells us a lot. Highly disciplined, very much habit driven, and has integrity. Integrity is probably job number one there. And Ben said something too, because now we understand who Robert is, this rugged rebel, is that they're not really into design. Robert probably cannot design himself out of a box. Probably leaves all the design decisions there typically to his partner.
Definitely function over form. Like if it looks pretty but doesn't work, he wouldn't appreciate it.
Yeah. So if it works, maybe a lot of his challenges, he needs a partner he can trust that shares the integrity, maybe his backstory, but has a really keen eye for design without being fussy. Boom. I think we just did a user persona live with everyone.
Yeah.
Everybody, you guys like that? Give me an emoji, will you? I'm desperate. I'm just kidding.
This is a great question though. Akko says this profile was mostly put together from experience. And I'm going to say yes and no, right? The thing is that I've never worked with a company like this. Never, not once. but I was starting to reposition my agency towards these people. And so I was conducting interviews. I was literally just sitting down and talking with them. And so, yeah, it comes from experience, but it's just from 4 or 5 different hour-long conversations that I had with these folks. So it's a little of both.
Well, I'm going to say something here. I'm going to
Okay.
say something. First of all, any panelist or pro member who's trying to talk to me directly right now, I can't see your message because the chat goes by like 1,000 miles a second. If you need to chat with me and tell me like there's a booger hanging on my nose, do that via my Facebook Messenger chat. Because I'm trying to find Stephanie's message and it's just, there's no way I can do this. Okay, Steph? So shoot me a message, will you? On Facebook Messenger. Here's the thing. I am not former military. I do not drive an F-150. I am not a flannel shirt. You know, my hands are delicate. I don't do a lot of manual labor. So you see how I was able to build this with Ben? How's that possible? Now, Ben is former military, former police officer, and this is his tribe. But you are all creative human beings, regardless if you have a fancy design title or a degree in it, okay? You are. And what we want to do is we want to be curious explorers of the world. We need to pay attention to things. My definition of a designer or an artist is one who pays attention. And I include writers in this too. I remember when I was talking to Seth Godin about this, I'm like, Seth, how do you describe what you do to other people? He goes, well, I pay attention. So when you pay attention to other people, not just what you need, you actually have a lot more information than you think. See, without not a lot of detail, I can figure this thing out. It could be because I'm old, but it's mostly because I pay attention. And you can do this, everybody. Today is all about empowerment. So I want to banish every word that says, I can't do this. It's only for that type of person. I want you to strip out the word can't. I want you to strip out every, I hate to say this, excuse you might have. Otherwise, get out of my webinar. I'm just kidding. Please stay here. Stay here. All right? I'm just messing around. We're inclusive here. But, let's leave that can't language. Okay? Let's leave that at the door. Tomorrow, when you wake up, because we're doing this again tomorrow, but the day after, you can live in your can't world. I'm in the can world. I'm in a can do world. All right?
Ooh, Judah says, I'm possible.
I am possible 100%.
Hey, I just got a message from Stephanie. She's available on audio if you'd like to bring her live too.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. So what we can do is I'm mindful of time here. Ben, we only have 25 minutes. I still have too much things. Yeah. Evie is saying, can I have more than one archetype? The short answer is no. We have a hard time deciding, so I don't want you to build too many archetypes. You have one ideal customer right now, because I'm going to tell you what you're going to need to do when we're all done with this 3-part series. You're going to actually have to reach out to this person and begin a dialogue and build rapport. So it's not about a lot of people, because I need you to be able to prove that you can do this thing for someone. For one someone. Okay? All right. Okay, we had to get real creative today because I don't know why I thought this. So I thought we could just do this with breakout rooms. But since we can't, I appreciate you, Ben, for being able to do this live in real time. You can kind of see how we're doing this. I could use more technology to write this in, but you guys get it. Okay, so Stephanie, we're not going to have time for Carrie or anything. I was going to talk to her a little bit, but let's do it. Okay, so mine might look something like this. This is not great, but I just filled it in last night, right? If you're a future customer, maybe one of our ideal customers is you're Lance the late bloomer. You've decided late in life, later in life, you're doing a career switch. You could also be called a career switcher. But you want to find a job that isn't soul crushing, something that's meaningful, that you're able to make an impact, to live your purpose. And so you can see I'm just putting in the little bits of information in here. Okay. So the prompt for you right now is, who is your customer? What do they need? Some goal they're trying to accomplish, some kind of change or transformation they want to have in their life. And what is it that they want? Why are they motivated to get this thing? So that we have a need and then we have a want. So the need oftentimes is external. The want is an internal thing. Okay. Now here's the cool part of this is if they can already get this transformation, you have no customer. So now that you know the transformation they want and the outcomes they desire, you have to also ask yourself questions like, who do they dream of becoming? Sorry, there's sirens going behind me. What's at risk if they fail? I'll pause here while the sirens go by.
Oh, we can't hear him.
Oh, you can't hear them?
No,
Okay,
your
good.
setup
Well,
is on point. So
I'm trying to block the sound here. So who do they dream of becoming? And also, what's at risk if they fail? And now we get into the really important stuff. What challenges do they have? Like, if I can get it, no problem. And if you solve that problem, then you're going to sell to no one who wants to buy. So what's getting in their way? What are the roadblocks, internal, external, environmental? It could be a supervisor not approving a budget. It could be because they don't have the technical know-how, or they're really all about function, not enough about form. And so they know their shortcomings. They're not a designer. They have not an aesthetic bone in their body. Something is getting in their way. They're not properly resourced in terms of staff. Okay? They're not up to speed on the latest web technologies. They don't know how to build an effective marketing funnel. Whatever it is, something is getting in their way. And so when you read the book Value Proposition Design, it's really going off now. In value proposition design, we try to find the overlap of what it is that we do and what the customer's needs are. And so what we want to do is possibly do both of these things, but we definitely have to do at least one of them. We need to either reduce a pain that they're feeling. Like, for example, managing inventory is a major pain in the butt. It takes way too much time. So if you're a software developer, you can go and develop an app and reduce that amount of pain so that they can recapture more time and have greater transparency on inventory management. And you can sell that. So then you can also sell Gain Enhancer, which in that same scenario where they're managing inventory, is they need to meet a certain production quota while maintaining quality. So if your software also helps to make it more efficient, but also to run better with greater transparency, be able to track packages, reduce customer service complaints, you're going to help them achieve their quota or their goal. So you could do both, but you must do at least one of the two. Okay, here we go. So when we start to understand who our ideal customer is, they have jobs that they need to do, they have things getting in their way, they have pain and gain that they experience out of this challenge or the goal that they're trying to achieve, and there's some kind of change. The result is change. People spend money and buy solutions because they want change. If your feet hurt, you might buy a new pair of sneakers. If you put on some pounds during the pandemic, you might want to enroll in a fitness program, or you want to subscribe to a healthier meal prep thing, or you might just need larger pants. You get to decide. Okay, so now we start to get into crafting your offer. So what is your offer? And I don't want to just say what's your offer, because everybody has an offer and you probably would not be here today if your offer was working. So what is your no-brainer offer? One where when you provide it to someone, when you present it, just the facts, no pitching, no selling, they immediately say, like, tell me more. I need this. Like you read their mind. So what is your no-brainer offer? And we can look at it on a graph like this, okay? Where there's price on the y-axis and value on the x-axis. We got to figure this stuff out. Obviously, if we charge a lot, high price and low value, very few people will buy this stuff because it's like low perceived value from the customer's point of view. So somewhere over here is obviously what we would love to sell, which is like premium goods. So high perceived value, high price, but it can be very challenging to sell because you need to demonstrate your value to customer. And so if we continue to look at it, it's like if we bring it down, if we bring the price down but keep the value high, exactly the same here. There's a Grant Cardone expression: when value exceeds price, people buy. So there's a couple things that we can do. We can reduce the price, or we can increase the perceived value to customer. But essentially it's the same. Okay, now you have an offer, right? I know what I do. I know who I do it for. So Ben, keep this in mind, all right, Ben? Because I'm just going to follow the thread with you. You
Sure.
know what you're going to do. And people had asked in the chat, what does Ben Burns do back in the day? Ben, how would you describe what you do?
Branding and design.
Branding and design. I got it right. That's what I typed in.
Nice.
So he does branding and design for someone in director of product for an outdoor equipment company. He has to figure out what his offer is now. And he has to start thinking about a price. So here's the thing. I'm finding this to be true in many communities, and the different people that I talk to and a coach, they have an outsized perception of their perceived value, and the price is really high. So the way that we can combat this is we can do a market audit. So we're going to find someone who does the same thing. So Ben, with the magic of the internet and your fingers, I want you to start researching brand and design firms that service companies of this size. So who else offers the same thing that you do? What is it that they do, and how much do they charge? You might have to do some cloak and dagger stuff and figure out.
Say, holy smokes.
Right?
2 minutes, ready to go.
Yeah. So how much do they charge, and points of differentiation? How are you different? So we have a grid. It's a competitive audit. Okay. And the grid looks like this. The middle column is your company. So Mallory and this is what you're going to do, right? This is what we do. And so you can write your history, what you think your USP is, your unique selling proposition, what your strengths are, and what your weaknesses are. Mallory, yours would be high design skills, very adaptive learner, very nimble, a great customer service. Weakness, company of one. You don't have a ton of resources that you can use currently, so there might be a bandwidth problem in terms of taking on too much work. Believe it or not, when you're dealing with bigger companies, that will be a huge problem. Their perception that they can't give you, or they can give you too much work and you won't be able to keep up. So they'll choose a bigger firm or one that's running more of a fluid model, who knows how to manage and bring in additional resources. And so you probably lose a job if that's what they care about. And then the price. So context and price equals the formula. So I want you to find a company that's smaller or younger and a company that's bigger and more established than you. What's their history, USP, strengths and weaknesses? And so you can see, once you fill in for the smaller company and the bigger company, that's your competitor, it might require you to make adjustments to your offer. So don't write yours in ink, write yours in pencil, because you could quickly realize your price more than your bigger competitor and you offer less than your smaller competitor, which will put you up S Creek without a paddle, if you know what I mean. So you've come up with an offer that no one will buy. This is really important for you to figure out. So we won't have to go into the full SWOT analysis, strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. But if you understand their strengths and weaknesses and you write this objectively, it'll give you a very clear picture as to what you need to come in at with your no-brainer offer. Hope everybody's following along here. And then once you do that, you have to kind of write in, what adjustments do you need to make? Do you need to increase the price? Let's go back here. Because sometimes you offer something more than the smaller competitor. You have more unique selling concepts, greater strengths, fewer weaknesses, and your price is lower than the smaller competitor, and you're not getting work. You're like, why? Because people don't trust you. That's some kid out of school, only 2 years in business. You've been in business for 10 years, and you charge half as much. Something is off. Something is off. Okay. You know what? I'm going to pause for a brief second here. I have 14 minutes left. I want to get everybody out of here on time. And in case you have to run, as long as you're registered for the webinar, you can watch this later, but you need to finish watching this and do what we tell you to do before we head into tomorrow, okay? This is kind of critical. And maybe you're thinking to yourself, I didn't sign up for this much work on a Tuesday. Fair. This is how we run our program. We got to get some work done, right, Mallory? Got to roll up your sleeves and get some work done. Okay. I'm going to pause here for Stephanie, Andres, or Carrie, who may or may not see a question or a comment in the chat that I need to address before I move on.
I saw Ankit put a good one, and it has to do with pricing how to figure out how other agencies are pricing. Is there
Okay, let's bring Ankit up.
Okay.
Let's give Ankit the power to speak. So powerful today, Andres. Paul saying I'm all in. Austin's loving the work. You got to love the work. I think true entrepreneurs love the journey. They could care less about the destination. And do you know what I mean when I say that? To love the journey. I have no idea if we make money. I'm just here because I want to build community, build products, teach people, transform lives. Somewhere, someone will tell me if we're making money or not. Could care less. Thank you very much, Shaban.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay.
What's your question?
Yeah, so my question was that how could I research the price about my smaller competitor and
Hold
also,
on 1 second. Are you spotlighted? I don't see you.
I don't know.
Hold on. Ben's the master spotlighter. There we go. I just want to make sure we're spotlighting. Okay, go ahead. Say it one more time.
Now can you see me?
Yep.
Yeah. So my question was that how do I research prices around my smaller competitor? But it would be the same problematic for me to research even on big competitor because most of the agencies in my niche don't list their quotation on their website.
Yes. Okay, so we have a problem, right? How do we find out our competitors' prices? Okay, so oftentimes there's a customer intake form. There's ethical and slightly shady ways to do this, but I'm going to tell you all the ways because I'm here for you. And we'll do what we need to do to get the information we need to grow our business, okay? You can ask one of your friends who is actually looking for what it is that you're doing and just to inquire. There's no harm in inquiring without the intention of actually hiring them. So you can ask a friend who owns a business, say they run an accounting practice or something, and they're looking for design or building a website. You can just have them call and it's a favor. Spend 30 minutes finding out their process, look at their customer intake questions, any bids or proposals they send through, and they want to get a number. Okay? It's the cost of doing business that sometimes you talk to people who aren't actually really interested in buying. And you can use that same process for talking to bigger competitors. But you kind of need to know where you stand. Okay? Because when you go to the supermarket and you can buy toothpaste, some toothpaste is like $1, some toothpaste is $12. Like what? So they need to know. So pricing is a little bit science and a little bit art. You're going to have to figure this thing out. Okay?
Gotcha.
And look, at the end of the day, you'll still be able to do what we're teaching you without knowing the price. It sure helps out a lot though, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Aside from price, you should be able to find out everything else. Their history, their strengths, their weaknesses, their unique selling proposition. Because if they can't communicate that, they don't deserve to be in business. You can find this out on their website, on their LinkedIn posts, their social media posts, and any marketing that they do. In fact, you can sign up for their emails and see what they send you.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay? All right.
Yeah.
Victor and everybody is asking, can I have a copy of this webinar? Yes, you can in a way because you can watch it on replay for a period of time after this webinar. Everybody set your mind at ease there. Okay. All right. Okay, anything else, Andres, before I push through the rest of the presentation here?
Yeah, one really quick one with the local market. So it comes from the audience. How can you find out? Oh, no, sorry. If you are looking to help local businesses only, do you compare yourself to local competitors only?
Well, if they only hire local people, then yes. But the person I'm hiring for our PR, I have no idea where she lives. And Andres, if I didn't know better, I wouldn't know where you live. And since Ben left LA, I really don't know where he lives either. So I also think the world works like the way like this. Like people hire whoever they need from wherever. There's a few jobs that you have to be in town for, like my contractors, but other than that, they don't really need to be in town. I can actually use arbitrage to my advantage, which is I want to get the best possible talent at the most affordable prices, right? And some combination of those two makes sense for me, coupled with my appetite for risk. Just because somebody's in town doesn't mean that they're going to be less risky. Okay. Back to sharing my screen. Here we go.
All right, I got results.
You got results, Ben?
I got results.
All right, talk to me. I almost left this webinar.
Okay, don't do that.
Clicked on the
Don't
wrong
do
button. Says, are you sure you want to leave the webinar? I'm like, no. I don't want to leave. Go ahead.
All right. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay.
Yes, it is.
So here's how I started. I started by searching packaging design for outdoor equipment. That was kind of meh. I couldn't find any true
Hey,
agencies.
can you zoom in
or-
on this, Ben?
Oh yeah.
For people like that have to wear glasses.
Is that better?
Yeah. There we go.
So this is where I started. And on 3 pages, I couldn't really find an agency that specialized in this work. So I knew that packaging design was an integral part of something that Mike or Robert would need. And so I was like, okay, well, what publication is responsible for a bunch of packaging stuff? And that's the die line, right? So I started by searching the die line knives or the die line backpacks or tents.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So then what I landed on is this article here, Going into the Wilderness with Myers Creek. It's a beer, right? But it's speaking to the same audience that these companies would be. So I was like, oh, okay, well, let's check this out. And I found the agency name in the title, and that led me to search for Thirstcraft. So that was my first one. So I did this 3 times, and I landed on this agency here, United Design. It's great design, absolutely fantastic. And if
You
go
got
to
your
their about
comment.
page,
You got your work cut out for you, Ben.
right?
They're good.
These are the 2 guys, that run this agency. And so they've done a whole bunch of work for tons of different companies in
It's
the
a good looking website, Ben.
SOG, Schwinn, Orvis, DuPont, REI.
Oh my God.
Tree. So they're pretty established. Orvis again, twice. No.
Double dipping.
So they're pretty established in the agency. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let's see how large they are. Let's see what sizes they are. So I went in, looked them up on LinkedIn, and it seems like they only have 3 employees.
Oh.
So they're probably not as large as we think. So 3 employees, maybe they're doing very well for themselves, but I can't imagine that they're making more than $500,000 a year, maybe $1 million, depending on how many of these projects they take on. And so, if they're working with that list of brands, I have to imagine that their average product or project cost is somewhere around $100,000. That's where I would estimate, just based on all this. If they were larger, if they had more employees, if they had a team of 20, that would be different. I would probably move that estimate higher.
Ben Burns, where are they based out of? Go look at their
San
abouts.
Francisco. So it's on the
all
higher
right.
end of the spectrum.
Yeah, we need to know where they're from because San Fran is expensive to live in. Here's what we know. Literally, San Francisco, if you make $100,000 or less, you are at the poverty line. Quite literally, I'm not exaggerating here. You cannot live in San Francisco for less than $100,000 per person. Okay, that's the poverty line there. Very expensive city to live in. You are seeing 2 out of the 3 employees.
Mm-hmm. And one is a freelance 3D modeler. So it's a 2-man.
Only 2 employees.
shop.
It's a 2-man shop. Now we know. Go back to their picture, Ben. What's really interesting is with a little research, a little poking around, you can actually get a lot of information. Now look at this. I can't tell for sure. That looks like a crew cab pickup truck there. Ben, can you tell?
Yeah, it's a truck.
It's a truck, right? With a short bed here. And you see he's wearing a baseball cap, sunglasses, clean cut t-shirt, rugged individual. And there's this other guy who's like looking off to the distance, all brooding, overcast day in San Francisco with the shipping container behind him, or something corrugated metal with metal or iron pipe or something with the
Both
camera.
of their
So he's
photos
like,
are outside.
yeah, so he's saying like, I'm rugged and sensitive.
I have
The
emotions,
images tell a story. Look at the color correction.
but I'll never talk about them.
You know what I don't like? Thirst Creative, or this is United Design.
This
Look at
is
that
not-
type.
yeah.
Can't even read that type on there. Come on, guys. Different type of agency. I can't even read that. Okay, let's keep going. So this is Andy and then Lawrence, right?
Yep.
First name basis, very casual. So they're putting together a pretty compelling little story here just by 2 photographs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Ben Burns, if you were to go up head to head against these guys, I think you'd be in a little bit of trouble right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would need to work on my image a little bit.
A little bit on the image, but
Mhm.
like scroll down a little bit. Beautiful typesetting, the mixing with the serif and a sans serif typeface. Bold. We build brands, the process, the formatting looks really good to me. Look, this is pretty nice typography.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe too many characters per line, but other than that, let's keep scrolling down here. And look at this logo quilt. They have a lot of social proof. You could cut them off at the top 3 rows and you'd be done.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a lot. Okay. Now here's my educated guess. I do not think these 2 guys clear more than $500,000 a year. I'd be shocked, but I could be wrong. Because my friend Aaron Atchison from Farm Design, I know how much he charges for these big projects. It's not as much as you think.
Mm.
And I would say his portfolio is as robust, maybe even more than theirs. And he only recently broke $1 million himself. And he has a lot more employees. I think he has 6. Okay. So this is good to know. All right.
Yeah.
Ben, well done. So you typed in, I think the big insight from what you just did was you went to design blogs. You go where designers try to sell their services, then you find out who your competitors are.
Yeah, I looked for work that like really spoke to me. I was trying to find projects that I would like love to work on, and that's what led me to those 3 agencies.
Mm-hmm. So I think that was super informative, and I'm glad we put the right person in for the job because Ben is good with his fingers.
Whew. Oh, and thank you.
His search skills are bar none right at the top. He's the Usain Bolt of search. Let's just put it out there like that. I didn't like the way he was good with his fingers. I needed to fix that. Okay, let's go and share. Share what desktop? What am I doing? Share my desktop. There we go. Okay, so now that we know what our competitors are doing, we know what our offer looks like. Your main job is to go get a job right now. Go book your first project. I shouldn't use the word a job. I really mean a project because we're not trying to get you another 9 to 5, another job, okay? So we got to book your first project. And so I want to introduce you to this concept called the loss leader, which I mentioned before about the grocery store. By definition, it's the product sold at loss to attract customers, okay? So I know what you're thinking, Chris. You are not a proponent for free work, are you? No way. You're rocking my world right now. And you say it's not so. And I'm saying so. Yes. I want you to do whatever you need to do to get your first yes. And let me break it down for you, right? So when we talked earlier about price versus value, it was ideally we'd sell at the highest price and deliver the most value, but not always possible. Here are my arguments for you as to why you might want to do it for low to no money. Because you need to do something to build up your skill set, and skills leads to confidence, okay? That's what's going to happen. You need to be able to show people that you can do this. And the number one person you need to show this to is yourself. Otherwise, it's just theory. And theory doesn't write checks, doesn't pay rent. And if you can do this for someone, you can build into it. Like, I will do this for you for a reduced price, 50% of what I'd normally charge. I'd actually even do this for you for free, but I need to get a testimonial from you. And I would like to ask up front, if I do a good job and you're thrilled with the experience, that you will give me a testimonial. It's under that condition. If I don't do a good job, you don't owe me anything. It'll keep me honest. And it could be that you want to do this strategically for a brand that you really care about. This is kind of important because if you're trading your time and your service for no money, you have to be sober with what you're getting from this. Having a great testimonial from someone who's pretty down in the food chain in terms of brands may or may not help you too much. But I'll even trade that if you can get a yes, because you haven't been able to get a yes so far. You don't have to start here, but eventually you got to get a yes from someone. Otherwise, you don't have a validated product. You don't have proof of concept yet. And so when you do this project, you're going to be able to refine your sales process, your onboarding process, and different systems and protocols, and improve your delivery methods. This is really important. So you got to tip the scale towards value by decreasing the price. They work together. That's how you create your no-brainer offer. So it could be that you have to start here. Still high value. And you might find out that even when you offer to do it for free, that you will have few takers because you still represent risk to them. The risk is time. I mentioned this before. Drigo, when he started doing video production, he had to convince a dentist to say yes, even though he was giving it away for free. People don't even take free work. How do I know? I don't take free work. I get offers every single day for people who want to help me. I'm like, I just don't know how to manage you right now. I'm not seeing the value to me. Sorry. My time is so precious to me that I just can't say yes to you. So no. Okay. So let me help you understand a realistic timeline, a time frame, so you can see how this would work. Okay. This is Mr. Burns many years ago, younger man, a little bit more hair, burnt creative timeline. It took him 3 years to establish proof of concept when he went from zero to charging on average $1,000 per customer or per project. 3 years, everybody. Obviously, I'm not trying to do this so that it takes you 3 years. So I'm trying to give you what we've learned, our collective experience between myself, Stephanie, Carrie, Elle, and Ben, so that you don't have to take 3 years. But it could take you 3 months. But here's where it gets really interesting, is that it took him 3 years to get to 1K. And then it only took him 1 year to go from 1K to 5K. So something happens here. You have proof, you have confidence. You start to realize patterns and problems. And you can go and sell that. We won't have time to get into that backstory, maybe some other time. And here's the incredible part. In 6 months' time, Ben was able to 8x his prices, launching himself clearly into a new stratosphere, 5-figure projects. See how that's done? Okay. Now, I'm going to try to do the same and share with you the story about how we were able to sell something we had not sold before. Now, keep in mind, I started my production company in 1995. Just a few years into it, we were already doing multi-million-dollar projects. Not multi-million-dollar projects, multi-million-dollar revenue. But when I decided to do something new and different, I was starting over, just like all of you. So I know what it's like to try and start something. So we made commercials and music videos, but I wanted to sell brand strategy. So how did we get there? I'll show you exactly how we got there, okay? So the first thing we did was we gave it away for free. I was mentored by Jose to do user experience design. And the very first project I saw I saw someone do it was for Trojan Storage. And if you are early customer of Core, you have watched me watching Jose for the first time in my life, someone doing live facilitation for design-led project. And based on that, quite literally, 3 or 4 days later, with one of my existing clients that already hired us to do identity design work for them, I said, hey, I just learned a brand strategy framework that I would love to do for you. It will not cost you any more money. I think we're going to have a really good time, and we're going to find some really interesting key insights that's going to help your business grow. Are you open to this? And they're like, okay. So I got paid for the job. I just didn't get paid for the strategy part. So this is for Ollie's Hakai Pass, which many of you have seen the video and the work that we've done for them. I saw it one time, and with my confidence doing commercials and music videos, I'm like, I could do this. I made lots of mistakes. Clients were totally okay with that. I don't think they even perceived them as mistakes, but I knew they were mistakes. And I did it for free. And it took me a full year of everybody that I would talk to trying to sell brand strategy, getting no after no after no, until I got one person to say yes. And that was Tango. As soon as we did that, it was just a matter of months before we were able to move that to $20,000 for strategy work. And we kept raising the price of $30,000. And then before we wrapped up doing service design work, Ben Burns and the team were able to close 100,000 plus strategy engagement just for the strategic part, not for the design, nothing else, just for strategy, live facilitation using our framework. So you can see how it can happen there. Ben, you remember?
Yep, it was that job lasted 1 week, 1 day of facilitation, some travel.
Yep. You guys
and a
flew
recap
out.
document.
Mm-hmm. That was it. So you can see It's it's a lot of work to try and improve it, but I'm telling you the value of you being able to do this, not necessarily just for the client, but for yourself. You got to get someone to say yes, and you'll see, did I give value? And then what happened was when we did it for free, I knew how much my clients benefited from it. That's why I can confidently walk into a room and say it's $10,000 and it's a cheap price relative to value created. And as soon as I got one client to say yes, I was able to flip that and say, you know what? I'm charging more for this. This is too good for it to be at $10,000. Okay, so I'm going to give you some tips and we're almost done here. The tip is to, while you're doing this work, to document your entire process, like what Austin Kleon talks about. What are we talking about here? Okay, a couple things. You want to record your meeting notes, the client brief, if any kind of strategic documents. You want to save any and every sketch and iteration. Just keep doing save as and build a folder for this because you're going to need to build an amazing case study out of this. If nothing else, you can at least look for areas of improvement. So any work in progress stuff, any discarded ideas, so you can show the exploration that you go through. And what you want to do is collect client quotes as you go. So during a meeting, if the clients say something just as an offhanded comment like, wow, I'm blown away. You've helped us to do more work in one day than we have in 6 months. I would literally write that in my notebook and write who said it. Because then when we're done with the project, I'll just say, can I use this quote? So write the time and the day and just collect them as you go, because clients, when they're loose and free, they'll tell you things that they feel, but later on when you go back and ask them, they have a busy life, they won't remember, and they won't give you that same enthusiastic recommendation. So collect the quotes as you go. Okay? Critical when you're offering somebody something is you need to establish KPIs, key performance indicators. So when somebody hires you, they have a baseline, which is they're before the change happens, right? And then you set milestones together, like if we're successful, we'll achieve these kinds of outcomes. And when you're done, you need to record what outcomes you're able to achieve. So if you write emails, if you write high converting emails, you'll say something like, what are you converting on your emails? What's your open rate? So they'll say like 1%. We have a 1% open rate. And how often those that open convert? 4%. Fantastic. So that's the baseline. It's good. And we need to see data on this. We can't just take it their word for this. We need to look at data to validate it's true. What are our milestones? Well, if we can get to 1.5% open rate, our business is going to explode, Chris. Fantastic. And if we can increase the conversion from 3% or 4% to 5%, would that make you really happy? Yep. Okay. Now what we do is when we write our emails, we start testing the different subject lines and how we open it up, and all of a sudden, and we clear out all the junk, inactive dead accounts, and then we can measure. This is really what you're selling. This is why when you've heard me say this before, don't sell what you do, sell the outcomes that you're able to achieve. The transformation, that's what people buy. They could care less about everything else. So many of you do something that's hard to measure. You have to get really creative now. Okay, in summary, look at this, Ben. I'm only 10 minutes over. I'm sorry. I apologize, everybody. Here's the summary. Okay, real quickly. I need you to be able to create a no-brainer offer before you proceed on to the next webinar. Next webinar is tomorrow, so just pretend like it's true, okay? Create a no-brainer offer. I want you to reach into your family network, your friends and family, and see who you might know that could use this thing for free or for very little money. You can also try some cold outreach, doing a little research, and doing the Ben Burns plan, which is, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. I don't want to say next week, but tomorrow, about the customer journey. And we'll detail to you how we're able to design a customer journey and to get a positive outcome from that. You just need to get one person to say yes, to give you a shot at it. Okay? And then when you do so, you want to gather all of your learnings and apply it moving forward. So I promise you some resources. There are not that many today. I can add to this. If you want, you can read The Business of Expertise by David C. Baker. I think I misquoted. It was Ronald Baker before. Now I'm talking about David C. Baker. The Brand Flip by Marty Neumeyer. Win Without Pitching Manifesto by Blair Enns. And the book by Sarah Beth Berg, More Than My Title. That'll make sense as we go on. that's it for me. So tomorrow, do I have notes for tomorrow? Yeah. So tomorrow, what we're gonna do is this: we're gonna get into helping you to get to your first $5,000 offer. We're gonna handle some sales objections, and we need to understand what they are and how to respond. We'll do the user journey mapping, which I said, and we're gonna work on a sales page. So be sure you tune in for tomorrow. If you found this to be valuable, you're not gonna want to miss tomorrow. I think that's all I have for you for today. So let me stop the share. Okay, Ben. All right.
I think we've stretched enough minds today. I think they got a lot of homework. Pro members, what do you think?
Okay, if you raise your hand. Oh, there we go. Kezia's back. So can we bring her in?
Oh,
Unmute her and highlight her.
there we go.
Okay.
I don't see you.
You can't see me?
Am I seeing her highlighted, Ben?
There we go.
Thank you. Go ahead.
All right, first of all, pro calls are never usually this quiet. We're way more chatty.
That is true, but we muted everybody, so you can't be that chatty
now. So question, if you don't have any like before metrics, like what do you use to measure your milestones?
So they have no, it's a brand new business?
Yeah.
Okay, then it's just purely aspirational then. So that's even better story. When my clients hired me, they had no business, no clients, no metrics at all. So everything that you do will be on a level of like it'll be exponentially greater than what they're doing today. So if you help them to land 3 clients, I help my clients go from 0 to having 3 clients with $100,000 in revenue in 3 weeks. It's a pretty good story to be able to tell. Is that okay?
That's okay. So a follow-up would be, say, using the email example, would you use like industry benchmark, like industry numbers as your benchmark?
You could, but they're very broad.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because we look at industry benchmarks too, and they're all over the place, depending on who's writing the email. I mean, it's all over the place. What I would do is find the most conservative benchmark so you look like a genius. Don't aim too high. It's better to underpromise and overdeliver than to do the opposite. Is that good?
Got it.
So some of you will overpromise and you're only setting yourself up for a disaster. I've made a career out of underpromising and overdelivering. Right? So I see people who come, like vendors who want to work with us. They start telling me this is going to be the best thing ever. We'll get you all these things. I'm like, great. It sounds so good. And inevitably, they will not be able to do all that stuff and it won't turn out that good. And I'm like, oh, I'm so bummed. I don't want to work with you guys again. But if they just came in and just was really like, we'll just do this. And then every step of the way they over-delivered, I'm going to have an amazing customer experience.
So I guess this might be a different conversation for another time, because like, how do you show that you can provide value but not over promise?
Well, give me an example. Do you have one?
No.
Are you using your mic, by the way, Kazia?
I don't know what mic I'm using at this point.
Maybe it's just air conditioning.
Because I told you I need somebody to, like a tech person to do this, because I don't even know, I don't know what's going on.
All right.
But I don't have an example.
I think that there's a key difference between promising value and then just explaining the value that you've provided to other people in the past. And that's why those case studies are so important, where you can say, hey, go ahead.
It's your first client. So you don't have any other clients you've done it for in the past.
Yeah, then it's really just an exploration. You know, what are your goals? Let's see how far we can get. You know, let's see if I can attain these for you.
Especially when you're starting and you're doing it for very little money, it's okay. Like, hey, let's explore this together. I'm confident in what I can do, but since there's not a lot at stake for you, low risk to you, let's see. And I only asked that we be able to share the results of what we did. You know, I can redact any sensitive information so that I won't betray your confidentiality. But other than that, I want to be able to share the success, and I'm really motivated to make this a home run for you. You can speak in those terms. Is that helpful to you, Kezia?
Yes, sir. That's helpful.
Okay. I want to answer this. I want to respond to this. It wasn't even a question for me. Matthew Hart is saying, I'm going to ask my clients, how can I disappoint you through this agreement? I think Matthew is saying it in a non-sarcastic, ironic way, but don't phrase it like that. And if you're just making fun and just messing around with us, then that's totally cool too. But I'm going to pretend like you actually were going to say this because you wanted to set the bar quite low. There's a much healthier question that you can ask your clients, which is, in the past, how has this failed? Ask them, how has this failed in the past? When you hired someone else before, how did it go wrong? What created aggravation and frustration for you? And you want to write this thing down like your life depends on it. Just write it down like boom. Then you can say like, that is the benchmark of what not to do. And if it goes well, or what would meet your expectations, then you can write that down. And if they sound like they're just too crazy, like for example, if they say, the last web developer we hired, it was late by a month and a half. It was missing key features on launch. It was buggy as hell. And we only sold like $100,000 for product. I say, okay, so that's how it goes wrong. All helpful, right? And you say, well, if this goes well, what would it do? They're like, well, it'd make $6 million. You see the difference between $100,000 to $6 million? To me, that's a giant alarm bell going off in my head. Like, this is wishful thinking. If I can build you a site that makes you $6 million a month from $100,000, you will not be able to afford me currently. So let's bring that back down. You can use these words, temper your expectations. I need to bring them down. Can we set more realistic goals based on our track record and history? You can use that language as well. Set more realistic goals, because this is the problem. Entrepreneurs, we're dreamers, is what makes us work. We have a dream of the future has not been built yet, and so we have to have some vision. But a lot of people are delusional when it comes to how big that vision can be. And what happens is they're not going to blame themselves. They're going to blame you. They're going to say, you failed me. You didn't deliver. I was expecting more. But in a case like this, let's say you help them to increase from 100K to 500K. That is a 5x increase. And they're disappointed because you didn't get to 6 million. And so now they don't refer you. They're sour on the relationship. All because you did not set realistic goals. You did not temper expectations. Okay? This is a critical business skill here. Do not allow the client to lead you down some path where it's all rainbows and unicorns. Okay. Ben, maybe there's some quick Q&A and I got to get out of here. I'm tired.
Yeah, actually, before we get into that, the pro members who are on this call,
Yes.
you have a lot of homework to do.
Yes.
We've created a space for this homework in Circle. So head to the Scaling from Zero space and post your homework there. And Chris and I will take a look over the next 24 hours to see how you're progressing and all that kind of stuff. And I'd really encourage you guys to weigh in on each other's results, right? So let's turn this into a group exercise and hold each other accountable. Because if you're on this call, you need this, let's get the work done. Okay? Can I get a thumbs up from everybody in the gallery there? Right on. Awesome.
I need to say something before I forget. I want to say this. You all know that inside the pro group, I'm trying to get you to $100,000. But then I realized many of you haven't even sold a single thing yet or have sold very little. And I feel very confident about this. If I can get you to consistently sell about $30,000 or make $30,000 of revenue in a year, let me say it again. I just stumbled all over my words. If I can get you to make $30,000 in revenue a year, I know I can get you from 30K to 100K. I just know it. And if you can get to 100K, I can get you to $500,000. And if you can get to $500,000, I can get you to $1 million and more. Beyond 5 to 10 millions, I don't know how to do that, but to get you to pass $1 million, so we got to take it all the way back down to having a no-brainer offer. And over time, we'll massage that and we'll charge more and more, and we'll start to service more sophisticated clients, bigger brands, and go more national and then international. We're going to do that, but we have to start somewhere. So a lot of you are looking too far into the future, trying to design for this other future state, and you're self-sabotaging. I'm trying to prevent that. Okay. Every person here, if I can get you to consistently sell projects for $5,000 or $10,000, the rest is like Ben Burns could just run that part with you and teach you about how to optimize your systems, make a couple of small tweaks to your phrasing on your website. Stephanie could probably help you with that. I can help you deal with some customer objections or how to position it to a market that desires what you do more. But we got to establish this baseline. Okay. I would love to see this happen where a couple hundred people wind up joining the pro group because they're able to get to that $30,000 mark, or they're on their way to consistently book 5 to 10K projects. And then we can do some real work. Okay. Ben.
All right. I think that's it,
any
Chris.
pressing questions?
We
I'm
should
tired.
really wrap this up now. Let's
Let's
save
do it.
all questions for tomorrow, if that's okay.
Yeah. So tomorrow it's also at 9 a.m. Is that right?
Yep.
So tomorrow we'll be talking about getting to your $5,000 offer. Once you design your offer, you're able to prove it and it's valuable to someone. We're going to cover sales objections. We're going to do user journey mapping, and then we're going to help you kind of understand how to build a sales page, because at some point you need to build a sales page. You don't even need to build it today. You're going to just tap into your existing network and go from there. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. Thanks for hanging out with us. Pro people, thank you. Thank you. And for the 1,000+ people who are here today, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.